Alright? Bit of a rant yesterday, wasn't it? Never mind. All calm and serene again today. See how serene I am? Nice and calm on a Friday. Mini Sardines even let me brush his hair today, so things might be looking up. But perhaps it is because it's Friday that I'm so... I'm looking forward to the weekend like I remember when I went to school all those years ago. I can remember it now. Come Friday night and you launch into the weekend and it's fantastic. I tell you. First full week of homeschooling this week, I think it is. And there we go. Oh, I bet Parky had a better time interviewing Rod Hull and Emu than he would if he'd have been homeschooling this week. Oh dear. Right, anyway, right, on with business. A bit of theatre today, so I'm not going to waffle on about it. There's a subscribe button. If you can and you don't mind doing it, please help us along. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also visit the Sardines website. The link's below this video. It might even be on the bottom of the screen if you're lucky as well, to go to the website and get the digital issue. We've got another issue coming out on the 1st of Feb. So that's good, isn't it? And in it, there's lots of stuff about the website. So if you want to register and subscribe, get the digital issue. It'll give you a little insight about what's going on. Now, I've got some more celebrity quotes here, and I've printed some off. I've skimmed a few interviews that we've done over the years, and they're not all cover stories, but a lot of them are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 people here that we're going to talk about just quickly. And as I say, some of them are cover stories. They're all talking about different aspects of amateur theatre, how they got to where they are. As I said before, they're all born amateur. They've all become successful. So they've all got their own unique pathway, how they got through. Most of them say they were in the right time, right place at some point in that path, which is quite interesting. And a lot of them, virtually all of them, say they wouldn't change anything if they could go back. So interesting. Let's start with Glenn Joseph. Who on earth's Glenn Joseph, you might say? Well, he played Buddy Holly for years and years and years. Do you remember Buddy, the musical in London? Ran for years and years, and it's been doing the rounds quite recently. Supposed to be doing a UK tour to celebrate an anniversary of the production in 2020, but that had to be scrapped. So I believe they're trying to schedule it in for 2021 in this year. But let's see how it goes. But Glenn Joseph, I don't think he's going to be playing Buddy anymore, because he is probably a little bit too old for the part. Buddy Holly was quite young. He was only about 20 years old for, was it 18 months or so before he tragically was killed. Glenn says to us, I was actually contacted by a company in Whitley Bay in Newcastle who are producing Buddy because it is available to the amateur market now. Incidentally, there's also Buddy Kids, which has backing music so children can do the show without having to play all the instruments. So I was invited along and I saw the amateur version at Whitley Bay, where they got me up on stage at the end to do the encore with them, and I thought it was incredible. Every time I see a different version of Buddy, whether amateur or professional, I always take something away from it where I think, wish I'd thought of that. And I have to be honest, there are so many people who used to be in bands and therefore can play instruments that you can get by. Even if it isn't the simplest guitar piece in the world, you can probably learn it from about a dozen chords. And I don't know another show that gets a reaction like that at the end. I've seen Buddy about 4 or 5 times now. This is the professional touring show, and at the end the whole auditorium is up on its feet dancing, not being asked like they tend to do nowadays. Let's see you all up on your feet. None of that stuff. It's people jumping to their feet. It's fantastic. Buddy Holly the musical. It's like a big gig at the end. It's just fantastic. Oh boy, it's just brilliant. Rave on. It's just fantastic. There's so many Buddy Holly tracks. And Glenn goes on, it is the sort of show that would sell tickets on an amateur level because not that many societies do it. If you can cast it well and particularly pick a buddy with maybe a bit more experience to carry the show, then I think it would be a really exciting prospect for an amateur group to take on. if I was ever to step away from theatre and come back to it, then it's the sort of thing I'd get involved in, whether on a professional or an amateur level. I love it. I'd love to direct it someday. It says something about it when I've been involved in the show for 10 years now, and I'm not bored of it still at all. More people should take a punt on this show, because you really do create some moments of absolute magic, and I'll go along with that. That's absolutely true. Now, a few years ago now, I met Phil Gallagher. Who is Phil Gallagher, you might say? He's Mr. Maker. That might ring a few more bells. On CBeebies, Mr. Maker is like a god to little kids. Not that he gets the plaudits from the little kids, it'll be the parents he gets the plaudits from. But yeah, we met Mr. Maker, who was doing a tour. This is in, I think it was something like 3 or 4, could have been 3 years ago, 4 years, something like that. And I went along with Mini Sardines because he was watching CBeebies then. He's too old for it now, it's babyish stuff. But he was the perfect age for it then, and he knew Mr. Maker very well. On television, that is, and he met him in real life, and we'll put a photo up. Phil said to me, I absolutely love he's talking about pantomime, and how he's linked, because his tour was produced by Evolution, who produced one of probably the best pantomimes in the country. I absolutely love pantomime. In 1997, a young lady called Emily Wood was working on a pantomime in Canterbury when a guy at the top of the bill was a chap called Paul Hendy in blue and yellow tights. And somewhere else in Canterbury was a young student who dreamed of working in pantomime, who came along and interviewed Paul Hendy as part of a university project. That was Phil, obviously. That was the year that they met and Evolution was born. Of course, Emily Wood and Paul Hendy were married, and are married still, and have a family of their own. They've got about 3 children, I think it is. I hope it's 3. Hope I'm not wrong there. It's something like 3 children. And Paul writes the pantomimes himself, and they are fantastic. And I just hope they've got through the tragedy of losing 2020's pantomime season, and can carry on as well next year. They do about 9 or 10 pantos around the country, and they're absolutely, as I say, absolutely brilliant. They do the one at Canterbury at the Marlow Theatre every year, and that's obviously where Mr. Maker is talking about and he's referring back to. And it's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. You'll laugh your socks off, and Paul's a brilliant writer, makes them very relevant to the time and the location. Now, Cara Lily Hayworth, who you might say, well, she was on one of our covers a few years ago, and it looked like she was plucked from obscurity. She has always been a professional, and I'll read some stuff from her in a sec, but she won this open invitation to audition to play Cilla Black. This is after Cilla passed away, tragically, and her son was involved in producing the musical with Bill Kenwright, and Cilla, it was called, Cilla the Musical, and Cara won the right to play Cilla, and she's got the red hair, the gangly look, she's very slender, and she's absolutely brilliant, a pleasure to talk to, lovely, lovely person, and this is what she had to say to me. She was talking a bit about amateur theatre, how she used to do that before she got into the business. Early on, I went to Jackie Palmer's on a Saturday, which was a dance and drama school, but other than that, I went to normal school. I did a show with the Chesham Light Opera Company, now Chesham Musical Theatre Company, at the Elgiva Theatre in Chesham, which is where I grew up in Buckinghamshire. I played the Artful Dodger in Oliver 2002, and for Wickham Swan Youth Theatre, I did the Hot Mikado and West Side Story. That definitely gave me the buzz for performing. A lot of professionals get the buzz from amateur theatre. It's funny, without those productions I probably wouldn't be sat here playing Cilla. To see how you got somewhere in life, you can trace everything back to a line of tiny little moments and decisions, and without them all that path would fall apart. That's very interesting, isn't it? And very, very true. How many of us can refer to different aspects of our life and put them down to tiny little decisions we made at some point along the line that took us to that moment, and without that stupid little decision, George Michael sang about different corner, turn a different corner, and you never would have met. And absolutely, if you'd have turned a different corner, you might have gone a whole different way. And we can all think of things like that, can't we? Even being devastated at something you didn't get always ends up being the right thing. You've got to believe that everything happens for the right reasons, otherwise you'll never be content. True, isn't it? Lucy Jones was the lead, cast as the lead. She was in X Factor, did very well, and was cast as the lead in Legally Blonde in the tour that starred Rita Simons and also Bill Ward, who we talked about in the past. And we interviewed Lucy Jones at the Churchill Theatre in Bromley a few years ago. And she talks about right place, right time. It was definitely right place, right time, and I've no idea if I would have still made it without it. When I auditioned for musical theatre school, I didn't get in anywhere, and then I auditioned for X Factor the same year. I was offered a provisional place on the one-year course at Italia Conti, providing I did an intensive summer course somewhere else. That meant money, 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 and my parents said that they'd remortgaged the house. You have to go and do this. The guilt was very real. I'd like to think I was destined to arrive at the same place one way or another, but I wouldn't be the same person without that experience. And that's true as well, isn't it? Very true. George Sampson, do you remember George? He won the second ever series of Britain's Got Talent. You remember the street dancer to that Singing in the Rain mashup that he did? Very interesting. And George tells me about how he got into the business and got to where he was. He starred in Our House, and he was on one of our covers that we'll put up here. He was on one of our covers. He played Reese in Our House, who's the bad boy with the skinhead. I milled about for a couple of years, George said to me. Went to different dance classes and picked up different styles. So although I can say I am trained, I've no specific training that counts for anything official. Then I moved on, and once I was old enough to do my own thing, at 13 I went out and took to the streets busking. That didn't change me in terms of how I danced, it just gave me a streetwise edge and helped me learn how to play to crowds. Important experience. That's what comedians say, isn't it, about working at the clubs? You put all your time in at the clubs and then you become famous and you can do the stand-up. Who weren't specifically dance crowds, on the street you get whoever is walking past. You have to learn your craft and how to engage an audience very, very quickly. I had to learn real quick, which I did in Manchester. It gave me a good understanding of what people were going to be like watching me. So I did that for 18 months, and then I decided to take it up a notch and enter some competitions. One of them was BGT, Britain's Got Talent, and the rest we all know is history. We'll stick a photo up from the feature and maybe of George winning BGT and the cover, and you'll see how young he looks back then when he won BGT. Very interesting. Lastly, we've got Beth Hinton Lever. Do you notice how these aren't all household names today? She was in the Ian Dury musical Reasons to Be Cheerful, produced by Grey Eye Theatre Company. Now, she is a disabled person. I believe her right arm only extends to the elbow, and I think she was born like it. And Beth Hinton Lever is very successful now. She told me a little bit about amateur theatre before she got her big break into the industry. I did amateur theatre for a long time, Beth tells me, and I don't think it's anything to look down on. I did a lot of youth theatre, such as the Liverpool Empire Youth Theatre and LIPAS, that stands for Liverpool Institute for the Performing Arts, one of the big schools in the country. Saturday and Sunday school, but most of my experience before becoming professional was with the University College London's Musical Theatre Society, UCL, where the Bloomsbury Theatre is. If you've never been there, it's a wonderful, wonderful venue, and a lot of professional DVDs get filmed there, actually. If you love it and you're actively pursuing it, then it shouldn't never be something that is looked down on. We need more of that passion and spirit in the world, and I'm so lucky in this show. I hope that most actors would agree that it's an amazing experience to find a kindred spirit in a company, in a cast, and in a creative team, but this is a special show and a very, very important one. And absolutely, because Ian Dury was, of course, diagnosed with polio in his career, and Grey Eye do specialise in featuring people who have some sort of disability, disabled people, and casting them and producing them and nurturing them like that. And Beth was one of those people, and she's going on to do all sorts of things now. So she's done very well for herself. But that's it for now. Have a love. If you're homeschooling, well done for getting through this week, this very first full Monday to Friday week. I think it counts. We've got a few more to go, so let's see how we all are at the end, I might ask you a little bit more about that in a few more weeks. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the digital issue of Sardines. We've got to get putting our issue for the 1st of February, which covers February and March, together very, very soon. So that's what we're going to be doing. So it's going to be all hands to the pump at Sardines House. Meanwhile, stay safe, stay well. We will be back. See you later. Bye.